What's up, everybody? It's me, E-Man, and y'all, we are back with another season of From. I know it feels like it's been forever and a day, but y'all, we are back with season 3, episode 1. I am so excited to get into this episode. Listen, I've got a good feeling that I feel like, we might finally have some brighter days ahead. Don't you? Anyway, for those of you that might be a little behind, or I don't know, maybe you forgot some things that happened in the past seasons, feel free to go back and check out some of my recap videos to help you get all caught up. In the meantime, last time we left off, this town has been wreaking havoc on the residents. We've lost people along the way like Father Khatri and more. The seasons are changing and the weather is only getting colder. The crops are getting bad. Fatima is pregnant. Elgin is being haunted by some weird ghoul lady. Tabitha can't stop seeing dusty kids. Julie, Randall, and Marielle were attacked by the cicada monster until Boyd saved them. And the boy in white physically assaulted Tabitha and sent her into the real world. Okay, I think that covers most of it. But before we begin, I know some of you are out there wondering the same thing. Man, E-Man, where can I get me one of them Got Worm shirts? Well, you already know your boy E-Man has got you covered. There's a link in the description just for you. Anyway, let's jump right into this episode. We start off in a hospital in Maine with the doctor talking with Tabitha. Tabitha is surprised that the doctor wasted little to no time in snitching on her and calling the police. Tabitha breaks out of the hospital and sneaks out. As she heads out, she looks across the street and sees the boy in white waving at her. She proceeds to break the law and jaywalk and follows him into a shop and harasses another little boy that turns out to actually be a real boy. Okay, so a couple of things. In the last episode, we found out that the doctor had told Tabitha that she was found on the road by some hikers 3 days prior to this, right? So far, I believe it's safe to say a couple of things. One, Tabitha actually is in the real world. Now, in case some of you still might be in doubt of this being the case, I'm going to drop a separate video where I do believe it'll actually prove that in season 2, it already confirmed that she was in the real world, but many people just missed it. So be on the lookout for that. The other thing to consider is that I do believe that the time in the real world does work the same way that it does in the town. And what I mean by that is basically 24 hours in the town is 24 hours in the real world as well. But there is something fishy going on here. If this is the real world, then what's up with Tabitha seeing the boy in white? You'd think that would be some sort of thing that only happens in the town. So this begs the question, is she actually in the real world, or is it possible that Tabitha may have brought something into the real world with her? I mean, off the top of my head, I'm starting to believe that there's some sort of maybe a spiritual bleeding going on. Like if this is some supernatural stuff, then this could be something crossing over, or I don't know, maybe vice versa. Maybe something is bleeding into the town. I'm not really sure. But something has got to be going on for the boy in white to be appearing to Tabitha at this point. Now, if I'm not mistaken, I believe it was back in season 2, episode 3, Tabitha had admitted to Julie that she'd been already seeing things ever since Thomas passed away. So maybe seeing the boy in white is just another illusion or a continuation of the hallucinations that Tabitha has already been experiencing. Feel free to let me know what you think in the comments. Back in town, Boyd is cleaning up his wounds from when he got shot by Reggie. Just then, Father Khatri appears for a little chat. Khatri rattles off all the issues and challenges that Boyd has had to deal with. Now, Boyd recalls his latest encounter with the evil entity from last season and states that the entity pretended to be his late wife, Abby. This prompted Boyd to ask Khatri to answer just what exactly is he, and Khatri couldn't answer that question. Mrs. Lewis dragging Ethan back in the town as Jim comes running in. Ethan is pissed at Victor for snitching on him. Ethan said that they had to go out and look for their mom. Julie comes in from looking for Ethan, but now that Ethan has been found, she goes off on her own to get her mind right. You know, one thing that I absolutely love is when Boyd and the other characters just straight up acknowledge all the crazy stuff that happens in this show. More importantly, I love it when they do it in a way that helps them make sense of things. Like, he knew the evil entity was impersonating his wife, Abby. So that prompted him to question Katri. Well, the fact that Katri couldn't answer, I think, just points more to the fact that Katri is just a projection of Boyd's subconscious. If you look back at their previous interactions and conversations after Katri's death, you can tell this because Katri doesn't really give Boyd any type of new or independent information. There's nothing coming from Katri that only Katri would know, but Boyd wouldn't think or know on his own. Everything that Katri says is basically Boyd's self-reflection or consciousness talking to himself, right? And I think it's no different than when Jade was talking to the mental projection of Tom, the bartender. Anyway, Ethan is obviously going through it right now. He wants to venture out in the woods to go find his mom. Keep in mind, she went off to the tree house and never came back. She's been gone for 3 days now. And how no one is watching Ethan is beyond me. Listen, I just know if my kids, God forbid, were in this town with me, y'all not going nowhere. Okay, if I can't see you in my line of vision, you're not moving. Okay, nowhere. Not with all this crazy dream-killing nighttime monsters walking around. By the way, this Victor and Ethan relationship, this friendship, it seems to be on thin ice. You can't be out here snitching on your best friend like that, man. I'm just saying, at least, Victor, you should have gone out there with him or something. As for Julie, man, I feel bad for her because it's clear that she's still shooken up by this entity that possessed her last season. And obviously, it doesn't help that, their mom has been gone for 3 days. So there's just so much drama and stress going on here. And, hopefully they can hold it together. Back at Colony House, Fatima is puking from her pregnancy. Apparently, Fatima isn't able to hold any food down. Right on time, in comes Tilly, being nosy to offer random words of comfort. Donna grabs Ellis to help her with the crops that are still dying, and Elgin apparently hasn't slept for a while. Meanwhile, Jim is packing up to go out in the woods to find Tabitha. Boyd tried to talk him out of it, but Kenny stepped up and says that he'll go out there in the woods with him. They hear a disturbance at the bar and find Jade practically delusional as he's been trying to piece together what's going on. Okay, so I guess Fatima's going through what I think, this is just normal morning sickness, with pregnant women. But it is a little concerning that she can't eat anything at all. Listen, just because you're pregnant and you throw up in the morning or whatever, you should still be eating because the baby needs nourishment, right? So that is some sort of concern here. Now, if you all recall, I've been talking about how this pregnancy could be a strange thing in this place, this town, this environment, because this place does have a strange effect on people's minds and their body. So we can only imagine what it could do to someone that's pregnant. I don't think we've had any other pregnant people in the town. So I'm still betting on a demon baby coming out, but I guess we'll have to wait and see what happens. Now, as for the crops that are being affected here, along with the change of weather that's never happened before, according to Victor, all this seems to be a continuation of the punishment that this town, this place, is placing on the people for trying to leave. Remember Nathan's theory that if you try to leave, this town is, gonna push back or whatnot. Listen, this food shortage it can definitely be a real problem, especially since Uber Eats don't deliver out here. Now, there's something I want you to pay attention to here. Boyd mentioned multiple times that when he and Sarah went out in the woods, their tent was dragged by God knows what. Okay, he's mentioned this multiple times. I believe this is yet another hint that the God knows what is actually giant spiders. They've been referenced multiple times in the show, whether it be people's dreams, whether it be drawings. So if I had to guess and make a prediction, by the end of this season, we will see our first giant spider. Let me know what you think. Back in the real world, Tabitha approaches two girls to borrow their phone. She calls her mom and lets her know that she's okay. She then tells her that she's got to go. Bye. The two girls quickly go and sanitize their phone. Mrs. Lou brings Kenny some food for his trip. Jim tells Ethan that he's going to go off and look for their mom. Jim and Kenny head off into the woods. Ellis comes running in and brings Boyd to Donna. She shows him that all of their remaining crops are now rotten. The townspeople who know about this bombard Mrs. Lou to grab whatever spare food that they can. Over at the barn, Randall tries to take one of the goats until Victor steps in to stop him. Before Randall could get too aggressive, Victor reminded him that he stays strapped with that thing on his hip. Boyd comes in right on time and takes the gun away from Victor. Boyd tells everyone to just calm down and give them time to figure out how to manage these low resources. Okay, so where do we start? First off, you've made it this far in the video, and I really appreciate it. And it means a whole lot to me if you would just go ahead, hit that subscribe button, ring the bell for the notifications so you don't miss out the next time I drop some content. Thank you in advance. Anyway, Tabitha. Look, Tabitha is tripping, okay? If I'm back in the real world, yes, I'm calling my people to come pick me up. I'm also telling them to bring me a change of clothes and a hot plate of food, okay? I mean, listen, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that Tabitha was bogus here, but there is the fact that her mom and family have probably been worrying about them going missing for weeks to months. So they probably thought that Tabitha and her family were dead. So to give them that little bit of hope and quickly take it away and leave her hanging. Ooh, I don't know. Do you think that Tabitha was in the right for calling her mom? And by the way, will this finally prove to some folks out there that Tabitha is not Victor's sister or his mom or whatever wild theories people were coming up with? She's got her own mama with a whole Spanish accent. Is that okay with some folks? I'm just saying, because some folks was really holding on to this theory that Tabitha has to be related to Victor. Now, as for Jim, he said that he's going to go off and go find Tabitha. But my question is this. Hey, man, where are you going? You were literally there when Victor told Tabitha that he was going to take her to the bottle tree because that's how to get to the lighthouse. Why aren't you talking to Victor? Why are you just taking your bag and stuff and walking into the woods? Go talk to Victor. Speaking of my man Victor, I bet not one of y'all are going to say nothing to my man's face at all. Randall tried to get Buck, and he pulled out that thing like, what you gonna do then? What's up? Make a move. I laughed so hard I did not know Victor was about that life. Victor was like, yo, y'all step, okay? Step up and you gonna get laid down, okay? I did not know Victor was that gangster, okay? Now, listen, this is why if I was in the town, Victor would be my best friend, and there's no question about it. Jim and Kenny are in the woods and they stumble upon some strange statues surrounding some of the abandoned huts. Tabitha goes into a confessional to talk to a priest. The priest started talking about God, and Tabitha's like, oh, hell no, I didn't come here to talk about that. We don't talk about God right now, not when I just came out of that town. She told the priest that she came from a place where monsters come out at night. She came through a tree after a little boy pushed her, and none of the people can escape. The priest then asked her to tell him more about Victor and the snacks that he made for her. She looks in the lunchbox and finds Victor's full government name and address. She quickly leaves. Okay, so Jim and Kenny are initially on their way towards the place where Boyd originally found the talisman. That's where they were headed at first. However, it seems like they got turned around and they're headed in a different direction. But here's the thing, right before Jim and Kenny headed out, Boyd gave them directions. He told them where to go to find that place where he originally found the talisman. So the fact that they still ended up in a different place, I think this could be the result of the trees constantly moving and shifting. I mean, we know that they've been moving ever since season 1. We know that Boyd, even when he would leave marks in the trees and stuff, would still end up getting lost sometimes in the woods. But more importantly, what's up with these statues? Now, if you watched my live stream before where I was talking about the season 3 trailer, I said that I believe that the statues were probably something similar to the talisman, right? They might be there to ward off evil or maybe keep something out. Don't really know. And I've seen others say that they are basically scarecrows, and I think that both of those assertions could be true. I mean, we have seen and heard hints of scarecrows in both drawings, and we've heard this from characters as well talking about scarecrows. So could these statues maybe keep the monsters out at night, or could they be set up for something even worse that comes out at night? What do you think is the real deal with these scarecrow statues? Now listen, as for Tabitha, I'm glad she went to church, because listen, if anyone were to believe whatever she has to say, it would have to be, I think, a religious-minded person. Now, recall, even Father Kotri was far more open and less skeptical, even when it came to listening to the voices that were talking to Sarah. And no, that's not to say that a religious person would just be gullible and just believe anything. It's really more so to say that that is the perfect place to go to get someone who would be more open-minded to all the craziness that we all know is actually happening in the town. Anyway, I need my girl Tabitha to work on her town elevator pitch. I mean, she just flat out told him, trapped in a town, monsters come out at night, went through a tree, a boy pushed me. Tabitha, I mean, listen, she's not wrong, right? But it doesn't sound all that convincing, you know? And listen, thanks to the priest's questions, Tabitha did end up finding Victor's info, and, you know, now we know his full name and address. So some good did come from this, right? You know, like, because if she went to the police or something, they probably would have just locked her up thinking she was crazy. Now, let's keep this in mind for now. I don't believe that it's any type of mere coincidence that Tabitha just so happened to go through this tree, which happened to take her right to Victor's hometown. There's got to be something here that's a connection or a clue of what's going on in the town. Do you have any guesses? Back in Colony House, Elgin continues to doze off as he knits. Tilly turns around and sees the dead woman walking that happens to grab Elgin's face. Turns out it was all a dream. At the Lou residence, Boyd and Donna debate what to do about the low food situation. Mrs. Lou offers up the idea to maybe plant smaller crops in different locations. Donna mentions how they could slaughter up one of the animals, and Boyd mentions how delicious the goat might be for dinner. Ethan runs away after overhearing that his goat friend Alma could become a gyro meal deal. Boyd consoles Ethan and tells him that the animals are going to be heroes and save the people in the town. Ethan said, cool, serve up the little goat first so he doesn't have to watch his friend die. Man, that dead lady is clearly messing Elgin up. Now, I noticed here that we got a much better look at her this time. So it looks like she's wearing maybe a kimono or something. And I'm assuming that that means that she's of Asian descent. So I think that might finally stop some of the other theories that have been floating around that this is really Fatima from the future who died and Elgin is her secret child that grows up, or whatever y'all was talking about. I really don't know. But I do wonder what is going on with this dead lady. What does she want? Now, here's one thing that I want you to think about. If you go back to season 2, it looked like that Elgin was being drowned by the lady, right? I think that was not exactly the case. I think what was really happening, and we probably all took it for granted, I think this ghoul lady is actually good. Because if you really look at that sequence of events, back when Elgin was in the tub, before she supposedly drowned him, what happened? If you look closely, the music box started playing. And I think if you go back and realize, whenever somebody saw or heard the music box play for too long, they ended up becoming a victim of the cicada monster, the evil entity. So I'm wondering, did the evil lady actually try to drown Elgin, or is it possible that she might have been trying to help him? Elgin did say he does not take baths, so clearly my man is not a bath expert, and it was possible that he was falling asleep and maybe he slipped into the tub, and it's possible that maybe this ghoul death lady or whatever was waking him up so he would not be a victim of the evil entity. Ooh, man, am I cooking with grease or what? Come on now. Y'all let me know. Do you think that the evil, well, I don't even know if she's evil. Do you think the dead lady is evil, or do you think that maybe she's one of those ghosts that look evil, but she's really just trying to help? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Now, as for this whole food shortage, man, first of all, come through, Mrs. Lou, okay? I love the fact, listen, I need to remind y'all once again, she's the one that gave Jade the bright idea, pun intended, to use the power from the current electrical devices so that way they can find power for their radio tower. So shout out to Mrs. Lou for coming up with the good ideas. Now she's got an even better idea with the whole planting of the crops and stuff, because yeah, maybe this area of the town is cursed, but maybe there are others that are not. You know, it's good to find out rather than planting everything in one area and having everything die. So I love her ingenuity here and her contribution. But yeah, listen, this food situation is really ramping up. I mean, the townspeople are panicking and they're freaking out. And the worst thing you need during a crisis is people panicking, because that will cause an even bigger issue. Y'all remember when we didn't have toilet tissue for months? Yeah, y'all remember that? But look, this town is really putting the residents in a tough spot, because if they have to start eating the animals, then that could really spell the end of everyone here. Tabitha shows up at Victor's address, and a man asks her about the lunchbox she was carrying. She immediately concludes that this has to be Victor's father. Kenny and Jim realize that they may actually be lost. They hear something outside, but the noise quickly stops. Jim realizes that he needs to quit leaving his kids alone and decides it's time to go back home. Oh my God. Okay. So I think many of us who watched the trailer from season 3 concluded that this old man was Victor's actual father, and it seems like this is the actual case, right? This will definitely come in handy as far as getting more information, and I'm thinking that we could possibly get more clues to fill us in on Victor's past, and maybe even more. Now, as for Jim, I'm glad that he's finally realizing that, you know, leaving your kids alone in a town where nightmares become real and monsters are running around might not be the best of ideas, right? Now, remember when he left his family to go build a fort in the RV and go play lookout with Randall? I mean, come on, bro. But listen, what they heard outside the hut, can we talk about that real quick? I'm more than convinced that that had to be one of the giant spiders. But what bothers me is that if that was a spider that was similar to what may have dragged Boyd and Sarah's tent, then I think we can assume a few things. One, these potential spiders are not limited to just coming out in the nighttime just like the monsters. That's a problem, right? 2, the talisman might not have any actual effect on them in terms of keeping them away. 3, apparently those scarecrow statues or whatever are not working the way I thought they would as a talisman. So maybe they don't keep the spiders away. Clearly that doesn't work. And 4, not one person in this town came in with a can of Raid. What do you think was making that noise outside the hut? Back in town as night falls, the monsters are busy causing chaos as they let the animals out and open up the barn. Boyd notices the animals roaming in the street. Him and Jade start to lead them back in, and Victor and Mrs. Lou come out to help. Randall sees the monsters making their way towards them and warns everyone with a honking of the bus. Ethan sees his favorite goat roaming outside and opens up the door to find Meemaw Monster standing right there. They run out the back door and Sarah comes to their aid. Jade is approached by the Milkman Monster and down goes Bessie the cow. Victor comes to pull him aside. Randall quickly opens up the bus to help. They manage to get most of the animals in the bar. Mrs. Lou opts to help Boyd get the other cow into the barn. Boyd quickly puts up the talisman, turns around, and finds some of the monsters posted up inside. They grab Mrs. Lou and handcuff Boyd. He begs the monsters to kill him, but they say no, and instead, they begin to torture Mrs. Lou as Boyd is left there watching helplessly. Oh my God. I mean, damn. This is tough. This is tough. I mean, Mrs. Lou, this sucks. This sucks. I mean, she wasn't like the biggest character, but I feel like you cared about her, you know? Now, what I'm afraid of is what is going to happen to Kenny? You know, I mean, if this place wants anyone to break, Kenny seems like the perfect candidate, right? I mean, they took his daddy, they took his mama, gave his old girlfriend a questionable haircut. My man is not going to be okay. But okay, let's kind of go back because damn it, Ethan. Now, I know he's young. I get it, you know, and I have to remind myself that he's still a little kid. But come on, man. I know earlier you wanted to go out in the woods and look for your mama. Now, it was foolish, but I can understand a kid wanting to save their parent like that. But a goat? Bro, ain't no way you about to risk it all over lamb chop. What are you talking about? But we need to talk about the monsters here because they are clearly stepping up their game and things are getting way more complex. Recall, we know what the monsters are capable of. We know that they're able to adapt, right? They don't do things the same way all the time. They went from chasing and screaming people to just walking silently and smiling instead, right? Because apparently this was all a game for them. Now they're out here laying whole booby traps for the residents. Not only that, but did you notice that they're going back to screaming again? Think about this. They have had animals in the town for a long time. The monsters could have attacked their livestock at any point in time. So I find it interesting that the monsters just so happen to go for the town's livestock around the same time that this place or environment was mad at everyone. Because remember, the boy in white did confirm that this place has feelings. So when it's angry, it will send over storms or poison the soil itself. So I believe that this place and the monsters are probably definitely in sync. Matter of fact, we can also think about this other connection, right? We heard the cowboy monster repeat what Boyd had said back in the last season where he was saying, you know, you can't break me, right? And if you recall, he had said that during the daytime. And we know that the monsters sleep at night underground. So how are they getting this information? What kind of evil Bluetooth connections do these monsters have going on around here? I mean, could the town be using monsters as like the extension of itself? I find it interesting that the monsters are far more interested in the suffering of people than they are killing or eating them. They would rather not kill Boyd just to make him suffer. So maybe Abby, or the evil entity version of her, maybe that thing was right. This place probably does just feed off of hope. And if you think about it, the most hopeful person in this entire show is Boyd. So killing people that are close to him, it's a way to kind of slowly drain him of his hope, especially if this place feeds off of that. I mean, think about it like this. If this place really wanted to break Boyd, all they got to do is go for Ellis. Because I'm thinking like, Boyd would probably just throw in the towel if Ellis were to, go too. So I think this place is definitely feeding off of the hope, and it's doing it in a very crafty way. By the way, it was not lost on me the irony of the milkman killing the cow. And that is such a major loss for the town. I mean, they do need these cows for milk and stuff. So that's done for, right? Or at least it's severely shortened up at this point. But what do you think is going on with the monsters? And do you believe that they are working with the town or in some way, shape, or form? And you tell me, is Mrs. Lou gone? I mean, there's a chance. Maybe she survived. Y'all think she survived? I don't know if she survived. We did see the trailer in the foot. That does look like her foot. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see if that's confirmation in the next episode. Do you think she's gone? I think she's gone. I don't know. You guys let me know what you think in the comments down below. Anyway, this is the point in time where I let you guys know my rating for this episode on a scale from 0 to 10. I would say that, this episode, it was exciting. It reminded me of the very first episode back in season 1, the episode that probably got you and I all hooked to this show. We're going back to the basics. You got the scares, you have raised up stakes like with the food, and you have meaningful deaths that you can relate to, right? So listen, I don't know how else to say it, but we are so back. Okay. So I think for my rating of this episode, I'll have to give it a 9 out of 10. I definitely enjoyed it a whole lot. But you guys let me know, what is your rating for episode 1 of season 3? Feel free to let me know those in the comments down below. But listen, check out my other videos. In case you missed them, I do have other videos on some of the major questions that have yet to be answered in season 1 and in season 2. Or maybe go check out my videos with the interview with the From cast. You really don't want to miss that because I usually get some great answers from them. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. Be sure to stay tuned for my breakdown for episode 2 and the rest of the episodes in From. Of course, I will also have some other fun videos for you to watch. And until next time, I'll see you guys later. If you're new here and you like what you see, don't forget to like this video, subscribe, and don't forget to hit that bell so you don't miss out the next time I drop a video. I've got more videos and reviews to do for you all, and until next time, I'll see you all later.